My husband suffered from kidney failure and begged me to donate one of my kidneys to him. As a result, he cut off his contact with the chairman's daughter. Briar. I only love you. Later. He didn't get promoted to supervisor for 5 years and hated me for the rest of his life. When the avalanche struck, we were buried under the snow, on the verge of death. Fury regretted it. If I could live my life again, I definitely wouldn't marry you. We were both reborn. In this life, Fury became the boyfriend of the chairman's daughter as he wished. Unexpectedly, on the day of his engagement, he found me with bloodshot eyes. Briar. Can we start over? In the 5th year after we got married, on our way to Zaklama Mountain, my husband suddenly lost his temper. It was snowing heavily, and the road was icy. Suddenly, the tire of the car burst. Fury cursed, saying that I shouldn't have brought him here. But Zaklama Mountain was the place he had always been longing to visit. His eyes were red, and his voice was harsh. Briar. 5 years ago you forced me to make the wrong choice. And 5 years later you forced me to make another wrong decision. What do you mean? My voice trembled. Do you regret marrying me instead of Aurora? Fury slammed the car door shut, got out of the car, and roared at me. If I hadn't worked so hard to pull in business 5 years ago, how could I have gotten kidney failure? If you hadn't donated a kidney to me, how could I have married you out of guilt? If I had been with Aurora back then, I would be the second in command of the Aurora family now, instead of being a junior staff member for 5 consecutive years like I am now. He looked at me with hatred in his eyes and roared the last sentence. If I could live my life again, I definitely wouldn't marry you. His huge roar triggered an avalanche, and the rolling snowballs instantly submerged him and me. The next second, there was a deafening shout in my ears. A slight impact on my elbow made me open my eyes. A handsome young man dribbled the basketball and skillfully dodged the opposing players. With a quick backward step, he then raised his hand and pushed the basketball out. The ball went into the basket and rubbed against the net, making a clear sound. The moment the 3-point shot went into the basket, I realized that I had been reborn. At this time, Fury was only 20 years old. His eyes and eyebrows were clear. His smile was like the sun, illuminating my world. Because I casually mentioned that I wanted to eat the plum fish from my hometown, he would specifically run all over the vegetable market. During the pandemic, he carried me with a high fever to the emergency room at the risk of infection. We agreed to stay in this city and work hard. After graduation, we entered the Aurora family to work together. However, I thought happiness was too easy. Aurora, the daughter of the head of the Aurora family, took a fancy to Fury. At first, Fury was very annoyed with her and assured me repeatedly, "Trust me. How could I like a spoiled young lady like her, or who doesn't know the hardships of life?" However, such assurances didn't give me much security. He gradually came home later, didn't care about our anniversary, and even forgot my birthday. Until I heard his conversation with his friend in a bar. "When are you going to marry Briar?" Fury sneered and twirled the cigarette butt in his hand. "What's the point of getting married? I have no money and no house. If she were a wealthy young lady, I could at least have a few years less struggle. Sometimes I think it would be better to be with Aurora. At least I wouldn't be so tired as I am now." I couldn't help but question him. Fury was stunned for a moment and then chuckled. "She's a young lady. If you have the ability, you can also become a young lady." Since then, he has become increasingly cold towards me. As if punishing me, he answered Aurora's phone call right in front of me. The woman Kokathisli asked Fury to go over and fix the water pipe. I angrily blocked the door. "You can call a worker to fix the water pipe. What's the use of you going? And you already have a girlfriend." Fury had a cold expression and pulled me away from the door. "It's just fixing a water pipe. Why are you so nervous? If you don't trust me so much, you might as well lock me up." He left without hesitation, but I waited the whole night. After that day, Fury had one drinking party after another. With the help of Aurora, he did manage to pull in a lot of business. But due to excessive drinking, he damaged his kidneys. He knelt in front of me, with tears and snot streaming down his face, begging me not to leave him. "I only have you. Don't leave me." I couldn't bear to part with this man. He had given me a home and was a ray of light in my dim world. Although it was faint, I still wanted to hold on to it tightly. After a few months, a kidney source still hadn't been found, and I took Fury for dialysis every day. Unexpectedly, hadn't fulfilled my obsession. It was found that my kidneys were a match for his. Almost without hesitation, I filled out the form and paid the money. The operation was a success. Fury held me at a loss. Briar, you've sacrificed so much for me. Don't worry. I will definitely not leave you. He cut off his contact with Aurora and took the initiative to propose to me. I thought the Fury from my youth had come back, but the truth gave me a heavy blow. The whistle ending the game brought my memories back. After the game ended, Fury, who was not far away, saw me and walked towards me. Briar, your boyfriend is here. I'll go first. My roommate Sunny gave me an ambiguous look and left quickly. Looking at Fury, who was getting closer and closer, I suddenly remembered that we were now in a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship. The young man was wearing a blue basketball jersey, with broad shoulders and a narrow waist. Sweat slid down his almost perfect muscle lines. He frowned and came up to me, with a trace of annoyance in his eyes. Briar, let's break up. I was stunned for a moment, and a sneer appeared on the corner of my mouth. Sure. I'm tired of it too. Just in time. Since in the previous life, he regretted choosing me. There's no need to entangle with him in this life. His pupils suddenly shrank, and a look of disbelief flashed across his face. I turned around neatly. Fury's somewhat low voice came from behind. You've been reborn too, right? My heart beat irregularly a few times, and I slowly turned around and looked up at him. On the face of the 20-year-old Fury, there was an expression that he only had when he was 36 years old. It turned out that I wasn't the only one who came back. I composed myself. Since we've both been reborn, I'll make it clear. From now on, we'll act as if we've never met. Fury's eyes darkened slightly, and a cold sneer curled up at the corner of his mouth. That's exactly what I want to say. I hope you'll keep your word and don't come looking for me again. I chuckled. Fury, I should be the one saying this. Don't come crying and begging me to donate a kidney to you later. Fury's face darkened. Do you think Aurora's you? She has plenty of money. I hope so. I turned around without hesitation. I hadn't walked a few steps when I heard someone behind me ask Fury. Fury, what's going on? You finally managed to chase Briar. But why are you breaking up with her just like that? Fury's voice was indifferent. 16 years. I'm already tired of it. What are you talking about? You've only been together for 3 months. Besides, Briar has a good figure and does well in her studies. How could you be tired of her? Someone stood up for me. So what if she has a good figure? She'll turn into a shrew in 16 years. So what if she does well in her studies? In the end, she'll still be working for others. She can't give me what I want and will only drag me into the quagmire. I clenched my fingertips tightly until my knuckles turned pale. I walked faster and faster, and the voices behind me gradually became blurred. If it hadn't been for the fact that I donated a kidney to Fury that year, my body wouldn't have gotten worse and worse. With a sallow complexion and insufficient ki and blood, after Fury was discharged from the hospital, he couldn't work. I almost took care of all the expenses and housework at home. Sometimes I was so busy that I didn't even have time to stand still. And I forgot to prepare dinner for Fury. He would lose his temper. The pots and pans at home were smashed to pieces. The physical exhaustion wasn't the main thing. The mental torture was the most fatal. During festivals, his mother would call and urge us to have children as soon as possible. Between the lines, she insinuated that if I couldn't have children, I shouldn't hold Fury back. She didn't know that Fury had just had a kidney transplant and couldn't even afford the imported anti-rejection drugs, let alone raise a child. After paying for Fury's kidney transplant, there wasn't much left in our family savings. On weekdays, I had to use the Housing Provident Fund I withdrew to buy him medicine. In this life, I want to see if he can live a more wonderful life without me donating a kidney to him. After all, in the previous life, once Aurora knew that Fury had kidney failure, she stopped seeing him. When I got back to the dormitory, I sorted out all the things that Fury had given me. I took out the couple outfits we had bought together and gave them all to the dormitory aunt downstairs. When my roommates saw this, they all asked me what had happened. I told them about breaking up with Fury. And the dormitory was quiet for a while. Sunny laughed. Oh. It's not a big deal. There are plenty of men. Do you want me to introduce my brother to you? Briar. Sunny's brother is really a handsome guy. My roommates started chatting one after another, and the discussion in the dormitory became lively. I stopped packing things and shook my head. Forget it. You can't go to the supermarket on an empty stomach. Otherwise, you'll want to buy everything you see and are likely to make the wrong choice. Sunny pouted unhappily. What do you mean? Do you not trust me? Or do you not believe that my brother is really a handsome guy? I smiled and changed the subject. A few days later, the news that Fury had accepted Aurora's pursuit spread throughout the department. Although everyone despised Fury for moving on so quickly, most of the looks they gave me, the dumped ex-girlfriend, were full of schadenfreude. I heard that Fury had wanted to keep a low profile, but Aurora had always been a high-profile person. She had liked Fury for a long time before. Now that they were dating, she couldn't wait to let the whole world know. Born into the Aurora family, she had a net worth of hundreds of millions. There were champagne, luxury cars, and yacht parties. She took Fury with her wherever she went. After dating Aurora for only a week, Fury seemed to have a completely new look. He had a famous brand watch, bags, and shoes worth hundreds of thousands of yuan. Aurora even bought him a Bugatti for daily transportation. I would occasionally hear these gossips as he went out early and came back late every day recently. Some news about how generous Aurora was and how Fury was acting like a love-struck fool reached my ears. Having been reborn, this time I'm going to fully prepare for the upcoming All England host competition. In the previous life, Tubin fulfilled my obsession. After dating Fury, he strongly opposed my participation in this competition. The host's dress is so revealing. Can you please not go? Fury took my hand, his eyes and eyebrows slightly lowering. As soon as you stand on the stage, I know how those men will look at you. I'm a man too. Under his earnest pleading, I gave up this opportunity. And another girl who went on stage that year got an internship position in a large company because of it. When I was still a junior staff member, she was already the second in command of the department. On the way to the library, past memories flashed by. Just as I stepped onto the stairs, a somewhat sharp voice rang in my ears. Isn't this Briar, the beauty of the design department? I suddenly looked up and saw Fury on the steps. Along with Aurora, who was holding his hand. She played with the manicure on her hand, and there was mockery in her eyes. What? You still haven't given up on Fury and chased him here? Fury didn't look at me. Instead, he just stroked the top of Aurora's head. Don't be jealous. I won't like her. I couldn't help but laugh out loud and walked up to Aurora. Aurora. A normal person wouldn't pick up the garbage after throwing it away. I hope you can understand that. I ignored Aurora's pale face, which was flushed with anger, and walked straight past them. Unexpectedly, Fury followed me. Did we really meet by accident today? What else? Just then, a boy came up to me. Briar? You're here. Let's go in. Fury's face turned pale and then green. And he gritted his teeth and spat out a few words. Very good. You found another partner so quickly. You really can't wait. Can you? I sneered and turned around, ignoring him. On the day of the competition, the judges for this competition in this school included not only the teachers of our school, but also entrepreneurs from the city. The students in the audience also had the right to vote. The moment the spotlight shone on my face, I gradually relaxed from my nervous state. My fluent tone filled the entire hall. I cooperated very well with the male host beside me. After it was over, thunderous applause rang out at the scene. Fury's face dark, and in the audience, there were enthusiastic discussions among the surrounding classmates. Briar is both beautiful and cool. Standing on the stage, her temperament is amazing. Fury really has no taste. He actually chose Aurora. Except for being rich. What does Aurora have that can compare to Briar? See? After this competition, the boys who will chase Briar will probably line up all the way to France. Hey, Heaven fulfill bride session. Do you think I have a chance? In the dark seats. No one saw Fury's tightly clenched fist or the veins bulging on his forehead. He punched the seat and suddenly stood up. Just as I finished removing my makeup backstage, Sunny ran in. Briar, you were amazing today. To celebrate you winning the first prize today, I've already booked a restaurant. This was a high-end restaurant located in the city center. Once, Fury and I had also been here. I didn't want him to book such an expensive restaurant. But he stared at me and asked if I looked down on him. Not long after we sat down, someone pushed the door open at the entrance. Sunny immediately waved her hand. Brother. Over here. The person who came was quite tall. Most of his hair was combed back, and a few strands of hair scattered on his forehead brushed across his thick eyebrows. The man's lips were pursed straight. And he didn't smile. Sunny whispered, "My brother is here. Isn't he handsome? You should perform well later." Before I could answer, the man had already come up to us and extended his hand. "Hello. I'm Sunny's cousin, Phoenix." I looked at the man in front of me and felt that he was somewhat familiar. Just now, he had been sitting in the judge's seat below. I had never known that Sunny's brother was actually Phoenix from the Phoenix family in Hong Kong City. The man who almost monopolized the entire jewelry industry in Hong Kong City later. "Nice to meet you, Phoenix. Just call me Phoenix." Phoenix. The man's gaze landed on my face, and the corner of his mouth curled up into a barely noticeable smile. At first, the conversation was a bit stiff. But then we got more and more engrossed in talking. Sunny whispered to me, "So, what do you think of my cousin?" Then we ordered a glass of wine each. I don't know when Sunny had disappeared. There were only me and Phoenix left at the dining table. The candlelight shone on half of his face, as if it had melted the coldness on his face. "Briar, I wonder if you're interested in coming to work in Hong Kong City after you graduate. I think the Phoenix family can fully meet your needs." I was taken aback. There came the sound of a wine bottle crashing to the ground. Red wine and broken glass splashed everywhere. My arm tightened, and Fury grabbed my arm. My wrist hurt from his grip. I frowned. "What are you going crazy for, Fury?" His eyes were blurred with drunkenness, and his face was flushed with a hint of anger. "Briar, you talk so nicely about not disturbing each other. It turns out you've already made up your mind to find a rich man to rely on. What right do you have to accuse me? Huh?" A big hand reached out and grabbed Fury's hand. Phoenix's eyebrows and eyes darkened. "This isn't the place for you to act drunk." I raised my flexible left hand and slapped Fury's face. Slap, the clear sound broke the silent atmosphere in the restaurant. The force on my wrist loosened. Fury touched his chapped lips in surprise, and his anger surged. "Briar, you actually hit me for another man?" I frowned. I really couldn't understand Fury's train of thought. Why? After being reborn, even his IQ seemed to have regressed. "Fury, make it clear. What position do you have to lecture me now?" I sneered. "I remember we've already broken up. If you keep pestering me like this, do you still have feelings for me?" Fury was stunned. Phoenix stood up, glanced at his watch, and said calmly, "I'll give you 5 minutes to leave, or I'll call the police." Fury's face turned pale and then red. After pausing for a few seconds, he gritted his teeth and turned around, striding out of the restaurant. His appearance was like a small episode, having nothing to do with anyone. Phoenix didn't ask anything and continued the previous conversation. On the way he drove me back to school. He casually asked a question. "Briar is so popular. It seems you need a knight to protect you." The streetlight shone on the car window, creating a fleeting reflection. The alternating light and shadow were cast on Phoenix's face. Although he didn't turn his head to look at me, I sensed a hint of ambiguity. I said inferently, "Relying on a man may not be reliable. A woman still has to rely on herself." Phoenix turned his head and glanced at me. At that moment, I saw the strong interest in his eyes. The car stopped at the school gate. Before leaving, Phoenix asked for my contact information. When I turned around and walked towards the dormitory, I could feel Phoenix's gaze on me. I knew in my heart that it was a sign that a man was interested in a woman. But at present, I really don't have the energy to deal with a new relationship. Once, Hediri. Fury and I went from wearing school uniforms to wedding dresses. But in the end, we still lost to reality. Love is like spicy hot pot, full of mixed flavors. After eating it, you always want to drink a cup of plain boiled water. Although it's insipid, it won't irritate your taste buds. And what I need most now is a life as plain as water. I told Sunny about my thoughts. Sunny was silent for a while and then said seriously, Briar, actually, you shouldn't give up the right to love just because you misjudged someone once. This isn't being sober. It's running away. She squinted her eyes and showed a slightly malicious smile. Moreover, my brother is a very stubborn person. Once he takes a fancy to someone, he won't give up easily. In the following days, I received messages from Phoenix from time to time. A few days before the summer vacation, Phoenix sent me a message. He asked if I would like to accompany him to a business dinner. After thinking about it, I replied with an okay. The next second, the car had already driven to the vicinity of the school. I didn't expect that the president of a prestigious listed company would have the time to pick me up in person. Why are you? Phoenix whirled his watch and put down his crossed legs. For the person I invited personally. How could I not pick them up myself? I avoided his aggressive gaze. Thank you. I can learn a lot from this dinner. In the spacious back seat of the Rolls-Royce, the atmosphere was a bit quiet. After a long time, Phoenix spoke. Sunny should have told you that I'm very patient. You don't have to feel any pressure. Just treat me as an ordinary friend. I secretly let out a sigh of relief and nodded. Thank you, Phoenix. After resting for a few days, Phoenix and I arrived at the Hilton Hotel. At the dinner, there was a lot of toasting and socializing. Phoenix was soon called to a private room on the second floor. Suddenly, my shoulder hurt, and a strong force almost knocked me over. The red wine in the wine glass spilled onto my clothes. Today, I was wearing an evening gown made of pure white fabric. The light red wine stains almost soaked the fabric of the lower half of the dress. Aurora covered her mouth with her hand, and there was nothing but malice in her eyes. I'm sorry. You're dressed so plainly that I didn't even notice you. The men and women present immediately turned their gazes towards me. A dirty dress is like a dirty person. Aurora looked at the waiter beside her. Hurry up and take this young lady downstairs, or she'll embarrass herself here. There was also a group of gorgeously dressed sisters around her. A few of them pointed at me and mocked me. The Cinderella. I borrowed a pair of scissors from the waiter. With a few cuts, the hem of the dress that had been stained with red wine was torn off. I immediately turned the dress into a chimzam style that exposed my legs. When I finished all this, I met the admiring gazes of everyone. She's so skillful. Hey, this young lady has great design talent. Amid the exclamations of the people present, some even handed me their business cards. They greatly appreciated my impromptu performance. Aurora gritted her teeth and crossed her arms. I don't know which rich man she's relying on to get in here. What? Does Aurora have an opinion about the person I brought? My shoulder felt a little heavier, and a big hand put around my shoulder. There was no smile in Phoenix's eyes. Or is this the family style of your Aurora family? Lou. Phoenix. Aurora wide and her eyes in a bit of a panic. Although the Aurora family is powerful in Hong Kong City, it's still Phoenix who has the final say. If I remember correctly, the Aurora family is planning to cooperate with the Phoenix family this time. The three major families in Hong Kong City can't compare to the prestige of the Aurora family. The head of the Aurora family immediately glared at Aurora and asked her to apologize to me. He personally compensated me with a dress. Before leaving, the head of the Aurora family handed me a business card and smiled. Briar has great design talent. You're welcome to consider the design department of the Aurora family. Beside her, Aurora could only stomp her feet in frustration. I was taken to the dressing room by the waiter to change my clothes. Just as I finished changing, I heard a noise at the door. When I turned around, it was Fury. He was wearing a custom-made high-end suit and was obviously here to attend the dinner with Aurora. Briar, you shouldn't have come to the dinner with the Lou guy. Fury's expression gradually tightened. I can see the thoughts of those rich people at a glance. He won't give you his true feelings. He's just playing around. For the sake of the time we spent together in the past. I'm warning you. Don't get close to Phoenix. He's not someone you can afford to mess with. A hint of mockery appeared on my lips. Fury. You're still so self-righteous. I turned around and tried to leave, but he blocked my way. He hung his head and almost held me in his arms. His drooping hair covered Fury's expression, only revealing the slightly twitching side of his cheek. Briar. What kind of status does Phoenix have? What right does he have to take a fancy to you? He looked up at me. His eyes filled with impatience. You're just a distraction for him when he's bored. Don't you understand? Crazy. I frowned tightly, and the heels of my shoes pressed hard on his leather shoes. Fury's face showed a flash of pain, and he had to let go of me. You're still so feisty. Once I establish myself in the Aurora family, I'll be with you. You won't need to hide from Aurora in the future. Can you wait for me? There was a kind of serious madness in Fury's eyes. I'm doing this for your own good. A surge of anger rushed to the top of my head, and I raised my foot and kicked Fury in the groin. Get lost. Fury bent over, holding his groin, and let out a howl. At this moment, Phoenix pushed the door open and came to my side. He glanced at Fury beside us, and his gaze settled on me. Briar. I looked at him in confusion. Why are you here? Phoenix took my hand and intertwined our fingers, to pick up my Fiend key. He leaned over and whispered in my ear, cooperate. I'm helping you now. I immediately understood and pretended to be shy as I punched his chest. Fury stood up, his eyes bloodshot. I object. Briar? Don't be with him. He came up to me and looked at me pleadingly. Briar. Can we start over? I refuse. I took Phoenix's arm and walked out. Behind us, Fury's indignant voice sounded. I don't believe it. We've been together for so many years. How can you forget me just like that? Precisely because it's been so many years that I've realized you're not worthy of my love at all. My voice was cold. Fury, haha, alone sorry. You have 3 days to leave Hong Kong City. Phoenix put one arm around my waist and walked out. Give me another chance. Briar. Fury's eyes were sinister, and he raised his voice. You're with him just because of the money, aren't you? I'll have money soon. Money can't buy everything. Like regret. I won't give up. Briar. Phoenix covered my ears with both hands. Don't listen. It's dirty. Behind us came Fury's furious voice. Until he saw Aurora, who passed us by. His voice suddenly changed. Phoenix sent me back to the hotel. Before leaving, I asked him a question. Why do you like me? Unexpectedly, Phoenix was stunned for a few seconds, and a blush suddenly appeared behind his ears. He just wouldn't say. When I went to bed at night, I accidentally talked about this with Sunny. Sunny spilled the beans all at once. Phoenix met me when he came to the school to visit Sunny a year ago. That summer, I was wearing a light green Chinese-style dress and sitting on a bench by the lake in the school reading a book. The gentle breeze blew through my long hair and also into his heart. Phoenix said that with just one look. He was smitten. I said at that time. Isn't this just being attracted by appearance? Sunny clicked her tongue a few times. But when I think that my brother has been attracted by appearance for so long and still hasn't forgotten you, he's probably serious. It's a pity that you were still with that scumbag Fury at that time. So, will you accept my brother? I responded vaguely and hung up the phone. I have to admit that I have a crush on Phoenix. But starting a new relationship isn't easy. When I'm hurt, I'll be like a hermit crab, retreating into my hard shell. I just didn't expect that the shell I was so proud of would be so vulnerable to Phoenix's pursuit. After that dinner party, Fury disappeared and seemed to have been taken away by Aurora. And Phoenix took me with him wherever he went. In just a month, it spread all over Hong Kong City that Phoenix, who had always been indifferent to women, now had a woman by his side. A few days before I went back to school, Phoenix booked a yacht. There was champagne, a violin, and roses. Phoenix stiffened, and the blush on his neck extended to both of his ears. He held the flowers in front of me, his eyes full of caution. Briar, can you let me be your probationary boyfriend? If I'm not qualified, you can fire me. I won't pester you. Sunny, whom he had invited, cheered beside us. People's hearts are made of flesh. How could I not know how good he is to me? I nodded and took the flowers. Phoenix's body trembled a little. And the next second I was embraced in his arms. On the day I left Hong Kong City, he sent me and Sunny to the airport. Phoenix's eyes were red. And he almost didn't sleep all night. Because the night before, he held me and watched movies all night. I want to cherish every minute and second with you. Phoenix lowered his head and gently kissed my forehead. Extremely devout. Wait for me. After I deal with things here, I'll come to find you. When I got back to school, I went back to the 3.1 line life between the library, the classroom, and the dormitory. I counted the days every day. But instead of waiting for Phoenix, I waited for Fury. As soon as I came out of the bathroom, Sunny grabbed me. Briar, is that guy playing the guitar downstairs, Fury? I stuck my head out. There were heart-shaped candles placed all over the ground under the dormitory building. And some rose petals were scattered on the ground. Fury was playing the guitar and looking at me affectionately. Briar, I love you. Forgive me. Briar. Briar. There were even other boys downstairs helping to call my name. Sunny was indignant. Are you crazy? Aurora just went abroad to study. And he came to you. What does he take you for? I picked up the plastic basin on the ground. Sunny, lend me your foot washing water. I aimed and poured it out of the window. The sound of water splashing was accompanied by exclamations downstairs. The candles on the ground were extinguished. And Fury was drenched like a drowned rat. Fury, hidden so filled wide sigh. Do you have any shame? As soon as Aurora went abroad, you came to our Briar. Let me tell you. Briar is my brother's girlfriend now. You're not worthy of trying to steal her away. There was a commotion and whispers downstairs. Fury still didn't blush or feel embarrassed and shouted loudly, Briar, give me a chance. Can you let me compete fairly with your boyfriend? There was another burst of sighs. I contacted the dormitory aunt downstairs. After a while, Fury was embarrassedly driven away by the aunt. I know Fury. He values his face very much. This time, he lost face in public, so he definitely won't come to me again. Unexpectedly, the next day he came to the classroom where I was having a class and sat in. You must not have had breakfast since you got up so early. Right? He put the bag in front of me. There are the Shanghai canned fried buns and milk that you like. I queued up especially to buy them. No need. Eat it quickly. You have a stomach problem and won't be able to stand it. Under Fury's gaze, I distributed the breakfast to my classmates. That was in the past. Now I won't skip breakfast for someone and use the money saved for months to buy a pair of sneakers that he doesn't even like at all. In the previous life, a month before Fury's birthday, I saved money on food and expenses to buy a pair of high-end sneakers. As a result, I got a stomach problem. And Fury just took a look and put them in the cabinet. The next day, I saw those shoes on my colleague Zhao Zhao's feet. Fury's explanation was that Zhao Zhao's shoes happened to be wet. So he lent them to him. But in fact, he had already received a pair of limited edition sneakers from Aurora. Seeing this, Fury's knuckles turned white from gripping tightly. That doesn't matter. You can give the things I gave you to anyone. He silently walked to the back row and sat down. I know Fury's gaze was on me. But I was busy replying to Phoenix's message. I guess Sunny tipped him off, making him feel a sense of crisis. Phoenix booked a plane ticket. And the plane would arrive in City S in the afternoon. I went to the airport to pick him up in person. Phoenix knows that I like to eat crabs but don't like peeling the crab shells. He put on disposable gloves and picked the crab meat into my bowl bit by bit. Unlike Fury, whenever I cooked crabs, he would become impatient. I can't figure it out. Why do you have to eat such troublesome things? I couldn't even expect him to peel the crabs for me. Halfway through the meal, Phoenix took out a blue velvet box from his pocket. The moment he opened it, I widened my eyes. The 1-month probation period has passed. Miss Briar, can I be officially promoted to be your boyfriend? Phoenix took out the ring inside. Or, let me ask you another question. Would you like to be my fiancé? I raised my eyebrows. What? Are you feeling a sense of crisis? So you want to tie me down in advance? Phoenix scoffed softly and averted his gaze. The moment he reached out his hand, a surprise in his eyes burst out. Please take care of me in the future, Briar. After the meal to digest, we intertwined our fingers. But on the way, we met Fury, who was coming towards us. He was holding flowers in one hand and takeout from Zenrongji in the other. Briar, I was just about to find you. I just bought your favorite hairy crabs. Phoenix raised his hand, revealing our intertwined fingers. The diamond ring on it was particularly dazzling. No need. Hairy crabs are cold in nature and not suitable for Briar. I just took her to eat king crabs. The color drained from Fury's face, and his expression was gloomy. You're wrong. She likes hairy crabs the most. How many days have you known her? What do you know? For 10 years. She has always loved to eat hairy crabs. Fury almost roared out these words. I stopped Phoenix, who was about to speak, and looked at Fury. Fury, why can't you still understand? It's over between us. Whether in this life, the last life, or the next life, I don't want to have any connection with you. The person you like, the person you love, has never been me, and I'm not your best choice either. Fury explained anxiously. Briar, I love you. Please believe me. After going through some things, I realized that money, power, and all those things are not important. What matters is having you by my side. No. You don't love me. I interrupted him. You love your pride more than you love me. You saw Phoenix pursuing me, and it aroused your competitive spirit. You're just unwilling. Fury, heading fulfill wide session. I've grown up. I won't grind my feet for a pair of shoes I like anymore because it's not worth it. Also, hadn't so wide session. Does her or a no? You haven't broken up with her, have you? Fury's face turned pale, and a trace of regret flashed in his eyes. You're right. I am unwilling. Why should you forget me while I'm still living in your memories? Briar, you're really ruthless. I still can't forget you in my whole life. He spoke very softly, and I wasn't sure if he was talking to me or to himself. And he rubbed his face, and Fury slowly turned around and walked back. He threw the flowers on the ground. The delicate and charming flowers were crushed by the passing vehicles, and the petals scattered all over the ground. Fury's back grew longer and longer as he walked away. A big hand reached out and covered my eyes. Don't look, Briar. He's not worth it. In the following days, Fury didn't come to find me again. After graduating from university, I went to work in Hong Kong City, but not in Phoenix's company. I worked overtime very late at night and took a shortcut on my way home. Phoenix had just flown to Europe and couldn't come to pick me up. On the way, I met two drunken Indians. They reeked of alcohol, and their eyes were filled with lechery. I ran forward as fast as I could, but they still cornered me in an alley. The moment I pressed the alarm in my hand, the person holding me down suddenly let go of his hand. In the chaos, the Indians took out a small knife. I heard a muffled groan, and someone stood in front of me. The moonlight shone on that person's face. I saw a familiar but somewhat haggard face. Fury was rushed to the hospital. The doctor said that the wound on his abdomen wasn't serious, but his kidney function had declined severely. He needed a kidney transplant. Otherwise, he could only rely on dialysis. Fury's face was sallow, and he looked calm, as if he had already known everything. In this life, even though Fury exercised and quit drinking, he still got kidney disease. After Aurora knew that he couldn't let go of me, she came back from abroad and made a big scene. She blocked all his ways to find a job. Now that he was ill, Aurora had already abandoned him. He had no choice but to come to Hong Kong City to find me. Briar, I know it's shameless of me to say this, but could you donate a kidney to me? I'm still young, and I don't want to die. I sneered. You don't have the right to ask that. Why do you think I'm still as stupid as before? To be so touched by your saving me that I would donate my organ? Fury's eyes dimmed. I ignored his eager gaze and turned the doorknob. Outside the ward, I received a call from Phoenix. Phoenix had just gotten off the plane and rushed to the hospital. He looked at Fury and said indifferently, "You saved my fee and key, and I will compensate you." But it's impossible for Briar to donate a kidney. As for her aura, I will sue her directly. Under the police investigation, the two Indians quickly told the truth. It turned out that Aurora had paid someone to do all this. She had always resented me for occupying a place in Fury's heart. Fury burst into tears in front of me. I regret it, Briar. Unfortunately, having fulfilled my accept, I was indifferent to his tears. The day I got married to Phoenix was exactly the day Fury left Hong Kong City. He didn't get a kidney transplant. And in the following days, he could only live by relying on dialysis. Although Aurora was bailed out of prison by her family, she was sent abroad by the Aurora family. Without Phoenix's approval, she could never come back. When my son was 3 years old, I received an iron box. Inside it were the couple shirts that I had once thrown away. The ones I had with Fury. There were still bloodstains on them. There were also the love letters he had written to me in university, and the handmade leather bag he had made for me. The person who brought it said that Fury had died in an avalanche half a year ago. The rescue team found his body at the foot of Zakalma Mountain. It was said that he didn't have time to avoid the avalanche because he was saving someone. The things were personally delivered back by Fury's teammate. He sighed. Fury always carried this box with him. We didn't know what was inside until we opened it and found your things, Briar. And some letters. So we brought them here. Fury would touch this box every day and even talk to it. We knew it must be very important to him. The edges and corners of the box had been rubbed so much that the paint was chipped off, obviously having been touched countless times. Fury said that Zakalma Mountain was the place where everything began and also the place where everything ended. He wanted to go to that place to find his original self and the person in his heart. Maybe if he found that person, she would come back. Did Fury think he still had a chance to be reborn? I smiled disapprovingly and burned the box and the things inside. My son ran over from somewhere and threw himself into my arms. Mom, come and play with me. Okay. I poked his little cheek. The end of the full text.